please use common sense. You know, uh, let me give one more very quick example. Can you compare an orange to an apple? Tell me that. Please tell me. Can you
Not
compare an
really.
orange to an apple, or an apple to a mango, or a mango to a papaya? Can you do that? When you can't do that in nature's elements of nature, why are you drawing all these kind of comparisons between men and women? Why are you trying to like sort of like women trying to become the man, right?
Yeah.
Or even if I have to say, the man trying to take on the role of too much of a role of woman. Of
Yeah.
course, in joint
I see that
families,
more and
there,
more. I see
yeah,
that more
yeah.
and
I mean,
more. It's very destructive.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
See, we nobody. Again, I said using common sense. It's by default that we are living in families and structures where it's a fast-paced life, and you
Mm,
need to manage so many things. So sometimes the man has to take on the role of the mother, but the mother also has to take on the role of the father sometimes.
that's
What to do?
okay.
You have
That's
no option because life paces become like that.
no.
But now, if I say that, oh, my girlfriend or my wife should not do it, or the girlfriend or wife says, oh, he should not do it. I am the one who is the greater one. I should do everything. What are we doing to ourselves even?
Yeah.
I mean,
We-
I don't
We're
understand
not
that.
we're not allowing women to be women anymore, and we're not allowing men to be men. So there's only something in between, and nobody's happy.
Yeah. Sandwich, it's
And
like a sandwich situation.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was also thinking what changed so much from the time of our grandparents to nowadays. And I mean, a lot of things changed as well. But this
Yeah.
whole like sexual revolution, especially in the West, started, which started off as it was needed, because like at least here we were in this grasp of religion, and there was a lot of religious rules around that were very, very bad for people and kind of the freedom of their sexuality. But again, we we gave people this freedom to do things without telling them or understanding really what they're doing. And
Yeah.
this is like now the manifestation of it, where the family values have been kind of like switched for like cheap and easy sex. And both does it just doesn't work, because
Hmm.
like we're not just sexual beings, human, we have so many aspects to ourselves, and we
Yeah.
need proper connections, we need emotional connections with people. So you can't
Yeah.
be lying to people that the only thing you need is like, I don't know, just indefinite amount of partners, and that's
Hmm.
enough, and that
Hmm.
that will feed your soul. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow. And that happened. It's the same with feminism, right? So it's all very connected. It
Yeah.
started with a
Yeah.
good idea. It started with a great idea. Okay, let's
Hmm.
give freedom to people, and then it just went to the other side. And
Hmm.
I have like a lot of like young students, a lot of like young people that I work with, and they're very confused about what love is, what sexuality is, how do these things need to look like.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's funny because my generation knew it better than they do, but they should know it
Hmm.
better because they've been living in this age of freedom longer than me.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, they should know it better. They should understand something, but it feels to me like they're completely confused with everything. And again, the media has been telling them lies. It's like, oh, female and male sexuality are the same. They're not. They are not the
Yeah.
same, and
Yeah.
they
They're
don't
not the
need to
same.
be
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's this entire confusion around that as well,
Yeah.
which our
Yeah. Yeah.
grandmothers actually didn't have space to actually deal with because it was
Yeah.
forbidden.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you had to go into the marriage as a virgin, your husband was your only partner, and this was the end of the story for most people. Like,
Yeah.
of course, people were cheating on each other always, and this will
Yeah.
never go away because this is also our shadow.
Hmm.
our shadow
Yeah.
of sexuality that will keep on popping up. But
Hmm.
now it's like no rules. But it doesn't
Hmm.
seem to work.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
seem to work at all. And I see more and more women that are kind of like engaging in this kind of free sexuality. I can just sleep with whoever I want, and then they're home crying.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So because see again, um, there is a when you are in your teenage, when you hit teenage, your hormones are on high. You want to
Yes,
explore about all of these stuff, sexuality and all of this. And then, of course, I mean, you realize certain things that like are like this and that and all of that stuff. I mean, you go on an exploration spree, which can go on for some time, in certain ways. But the point here is that I think generationally, if we look at it, uh, of course, there is a factor of a lot of shame and guilt around it
yes,
because when morality was introduced into this thing, it was looked upon from the eyes of morality. That is when shame and guilt started to creep in around the
yes.
topic of sexuality. In India, somehow, India also has experienced a similar kind of a dynamic in a different way. We had invasions. Uh,
Mm,
Women here were, before Mughal era, women were much more freer, you know.
mm,
And we've had queens who have ruled kingdoms, who have
mm.
fought for their kingdoms. We have had queens, and I mean, it's a historical fact. There is no denying it in India. And not just one queen, there have been multiple queens in different parts of India, by the way.
Interesting.
Uh, and there have also been women who were wives of great saints and sages, who were equally high intellectual caliber, these women. And you could say they were spiritual giants, these women.
Mm,
And even till today, when we offer prayers in our temples, in certain, there are, when we remember our tradition of masters and gurus, we remember them with their wives. The
mm,
rishis, the saints and sages are invoked along with their wives because their wives also were great saints themselves, practitioners of deep, powerful spirituality. And so, in those times, I mean, there was no shaming, there was no morality. There was this lens of dharma. Dharma is about righteous conduct in a way that is healthy for you and society. It's not morality. Oh, this is bad. Oh, this is stubborn. No, 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 not like that. It won't go into a, like we say, sometimes we mock the lecturing mode of lecturing, because when you're
yes.
looking at things from a morality lens, it takes you on a lecturing mode, that high horse sort of a thing. But when you look
Yeah.
at things from a mode of dharma, it makes you understand things as they are in a
Mm,
very, and you start taking them in a very natural manner. That, of course, when you are in a marital relationship, the spouse has both the man and the wife, they have their own distinct sexual rights,
mm,
and they have their own sexual duties,
mm.
which they are capable, or they are allowed to do it with themselves in their own space. There's no shame about it. But again, as the history form, society changed, invasions came
Religion
in.
really, really did a lot of harm there because
Yeah,
the entire concept of even having your own sexuality without a partner was a sin, especially in Western societies, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's the same in
yeah,
Christianity or Islam. Like
yeah,
it's something that is completely forbidden,
yeah,
and the sexuality was put into the only use was to have children.
yeah,
There's nothing
and
else, you know. Everything
yeah,
else was
yeah,
forbidden.
and see, again, because you are rejecting it, you are becoming more and more merged with it. More and more cases of
Mm,
sexual abuse arising.
yes.
and incest and whatnot. I mean, there's so much of corruption around sexuality. I mean, convoluted.
Incredible
What
amount.
is, yes, I mean, what is supposed to be a healthy, natural thing has been made into this kind of a monster ugliness out of it, you know? And
It
so,
should be something that is, a sacred act between people that
yeah,
love
yeah.
or at least respect each other, you know?
Respect, and also I think healthy. In India, you have the India, I mean, people sometimes joke, but in India, you have an entire text on sexual
Yeah.
health and about sex, which is the Kama Sutra. And it's amazing to see that a rishi, a saint, has written that book, you know. So there was no morality about it. They had no qualms. They were
They
very clear
probably
about this,
probably
that,
Brits
this is a part of
imported
life.
morality to
Yeah,
you.
I mean, they were so clear, they were so on point that this is a part of life. Yes, at the
Yes.
same time, because the lens of dharma comes into picture. So they said it's not, and that is why for a very long period of time sex was not made into an ugly thing in India. But of course, when invasions happened here and the Mughal invasion and everything, so many things changed because there was forceful conversions happening. Women were being sold, were being trafficked, were
Mm,
getting picked up. There used to be big bazaars where women were openly stripped naked and they were sold out
wow.
as slaves, you know.
Yeah.
And even in those times and ages, because things started changing, but changing for the worse, so hence the kings and men in societies, they had to bring in a lot of rules around women, and women also started, they had to sort of protect themselves, keep themselves in those big veils. And the parda system was never a part of India. I mean, it's been
Yeah.
so foolishly taught to people that, oh, India had parda system. India never had parda. Till today, we are, I mean, Indian society is sort of bearing the brunt of it, because still in the villages, the rural parts, the very economically backward areas in India, still those some sort of, those old age practices like
Mm,
these big veils, they go on. But still there are still a lot of things are changing, but still a lot of work needs to be done. But where is it originating from? You have to go back in the history and you have to look at it. You have to look at the generational trauma that has been a part of it.
yes. Yes.
Systemically, women were taught that if you are out there, you are going to get killed or raped or being sold in the market, or something is going to happen to you. And men who already were doing, I mean, they were already ruling or administering, they were providing it all for their family and for the women. They had to take extra burden to even keep their women safe
Yes.
from harm, from
And this is
getting looted.
happening a lot in the world as well. And this
Yeah,
is the shadow side of repressing sexuality. And this is the
yeah,
worst thing that can happen, especially masculine sexuality. If it's
yeah,
repressed, it will come out ugly.
yeah,
The
yeah.
feminine may be suppressed so much that will not come out at all ever, that a woman is
Mm.
going to think, oh, I don't even have it. But with
Oh, yes,
masculine, because
yes.
it's such a force, and it's like a
Mm.
primal urge, it's a primal energy, it's
Mm.
it's life, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It will come out ugly if it's suppressed. So it didn't
yeah.
work in Christianity either. There's a lot of scandals around Catholic
Oh,
priests
yes.
that
Yeah,
there's tons of it because it does not work. And I always
yeah,
said,
yeah.
just let them marry. They'll be fine. They'll be okay.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah,
like you're forcing
yeah,
them to live. You're giving them power, but you're forcing them to live a very modest and, sexless life. It will
yeah,
never work
yeah,
because
yeah.
power and sexuality are almost like brothers,
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
right?
No, I
They go
think,
together.
yeah, I think celibacy cannot be forced.
No.
Celibacy is a very it is a part of human life. Again, I mean, we've had in India, there have been so many saints who were celibates.
Hmm.
Uh, in Vedic terminology, there is a word called as brahmachari. Brahmacharis are people who do not enter into a regular, family life. But their life is very different.
But they
It's
use
not
that
meant for,
energy. They
Yeah,
use the
using
energy.
creativity, putting into
Yes,
creativity, into
exactly.
service for the society, into the intense spiritual practices, and then using that spiritual energy to put it into the service of society.
Yeah.
That's how it was. That's how it was supposed to be. Of course, I mean, India has also had its own issues around it. There have been over time, there have been also these practices have also been corrupted in many cases. Not
Yeah.
all, I'm not generalizing, but in many cases they have been corrupted or they have been misunderstood,
Mm,
misused.
mm.
So yeah, there have been challenges. There are challenges there in Indian amongst Indian population too. But since we are discussing it, the cultural and historical background of it, so I am bringing these points to the forefront. Yes, it does create, and when people today, I mean, in terms of the present times, when people look at into the past of India, sometimes people get confused. Oh, how come the people earlier were celibates and now they are getting married? No, I mean, both are separate things. You could marry and have a family life, beautiful family,
Mm.
healthy family life, and you could still earn well, you could still go for your spiritual pursuits. And at the same time, there was a system where you could just dedicate your life entirely to spirituality and not marry at all. But
It's a
celibacy,
it's
yeah,
an option.
it's an
It's
option.
like it's
See,
a
and
choice.
it's
Yeah.
a choice, and
Yeah.
it's it's something natural. It's something somebody's born with. See, somebody's born with the talent of mathematics.
Mm.
Somebody is born with that power, some kind of a spiritual attribute in them that takes them onto that path. And
Mm.
that is what they are meant for. Then they might choose the path of celibacy. But it's like it comes naturally to them. It's not forced upon. And
Yeah.
even if it comes naturally, that does not mean that there are some physical or sexual issues with them. No, not at all. It just means that that's how they are built. They're going to take up the path of. And in fact, by the way, there have been so many instances, so many cases where be it a man or a woman, they're married, but a point of time came in their life almost naturally, or let's say karmically somehow, that they completely turned towards spirituality.
Mm.
They had children and everything, but they turned towards spirituality and they went on to become the greatest of saints India has ever had. Until today, they are remembered with great reverence
Yeah.
and love. So, I mean, there's so many shades to it, so many. But